You smell like meat and cheese. You don't smell like Santa. We smell like whiskey. That means we smell like implicit bias. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon, and it is time for 2 more hours of solving the problems of the world, one weekly whiskey at a time. It's time for the crew, and that's with a K, to again dive deep into the stories that the mass media, well, they just won't tell you. More saying things that will probably offend someone somewhere because they don't share your implicit bias. As we started to put together this week's show, we realized just how much stuff we could actually cover and realized we couldn't cover all of it. It was kind of a given that the crazy things of this world would accelerate after the election, regardless of who won. But man, some of the stuff, we just couldn't believe how crazy, how bad, how hypocritical, how shameless the crazy would actually become. And I mean, we have successful assassinations. We have drones over New Jersey. We have more 60 Minutes hit pieces on cryptocurrency. We have Jay-Z now officially, legally involved in the Puff Diddler freak-offs. If you look at sports, we've got a 12-team playoff that's giving everyone a trophy who plays in a crap conference, which means college football didn't make the decision based on merit. They made it based on trying to get viewers they might not have. Lastly, if you go to the White House, you're pretty sure to get a party favor of either the relief of billions in sanctions or you'll get a door prize of a pardon for basically any crime you might have committed, which I'm sure would only cost you 10% as long as you give it to the big guy. Man, it is an insane, sky-screaming, leftist nightmare. Merry freaking Christmas. Amazing that the path through the last 16 years, the path through the crap that is the Affordable Care Act, crappy school lunches put in place by a first lady who's got no power, the media press pool being destroyed by a president, pallets of cash to Iran that just disappeared, divisive policy, higher taxes, our country losing energy independence, the laptop from hell, social media being weaponized to suppress any opposing views, forced vaccinations, forced quarantines, Ashley Biden's diary, falling asleep at international summits, biolabs in Ukraine, Ukrainian wars, which you've funded only to have that money get funneled back to U.S. politicians, lawmakers in Congress predicting the stock market with the accuracy of the Great Kreskin, all that path is what gives us the path. It's what gives us potential visibility to the truth. All of this stuff has been our modern version of basically John the Baptist. Remember, John went all through Jordan telling people to prepare the way for Jesus. It's appropriate at Christmas that all this happening, all this prepared the way for what it seems is about to happen. John tells us this in Luke 3, that all these things were basically a voice of one crying out in the desert, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight his paths. Every valley shall be filled. Every mountain and hill shall be made low. The winding roads shall be made straight and the rough ways made smooth. See, it's not a coincidence that the solution, not just the insanity of the last few years, but any insanity is actually, it is the solution. And it's all around these issues. It's not to get around all of this, actually, but to get past it, we have to go through it. This is the beauty of how God and faith and truth makes things happen. See, if all these terrible things, they created the situation where we are today, right? Sure, it might seem as if it's a master chess player forced these errors on leftists, but the reality is the death of so many things. Things like DEI, discrimination employment initiatives, the swing back to faith by so many, the light that's being shown behind all of the fiscal misgivings and irresponsibility in government. So many Americans searching for the truth, not provided by the media. We've got all this because That's always been God's plan. It's always been the plan to use evil, malice in human beings to show and destroy malice. His plan is to use that malice. It becomes a weapon against itself. See, the stress, the pressure, it forces change. And if we're in a bad place, if we're associating with evil, even if we don't know it, we turn away from evil eventually, which means we turn to truth. We turn from evil back to God. So as we sit in the Top Secret podcast lair this week, sipping spirits, we will turn to the Spirit to help us understand the how and the why evil will turn on itself. We'll turn to our implicit bias to discuss how you are now the path to the truth, the path past evil, and evil hates it. We'll turn to our implicit bias to bring dark to light. We'll turn to our implicit bias to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Cheers. We'll be right back.